Hello bookworms! Today I am here with my March wrap-up video. I read a good amount of books in March. I forgot to count exactly how many I read before I started recording, so I don't know the number, but I'll know the number by the end. So I'll just go ahead and get started. The first book that I read this month is The Girl at Midnight by Melissa Gray, and oh my god, I loved it so much. Like, I was so into this book. I read it so quickly because I just could not put it down. It's about this girl named Echo, and she is living at the New York Public Library, and she gets involved with this race of ancient people, and they're at war with another race of ancient people, and they go on a quest to find the Firebird. It's just like really interesting, and I've been super into fantasy lately, so this was like everything that I wanted, and it's so well written and so good, and like I just loved every character. It does transition between different points of view, and usually when that happens there's like one or two characters that I'm like, oh, I'm not so into this character, but like I never felt that way. I was like excited no matter who was telling their portion of the story, which is like really rare and really good. So Girl at Midnight by Melissa Gray, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This book is actually not out yet. It comes out April 28th, and you guys have to get it. And also, if you happen to live in New York, Melissa is having a launch party at Books of Wonder on April 29th, I believe, and there will be cupcakes. So who doesn't love books and cupcakes? But anyway, like, read this. Do it. The next book that I read is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, and this is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. This was also like just so phenomenal, and it just got me so much more like into this story. Like, I loved the first book, but I really love the second one, and now I absolutely have to read the third one like immediately because I need to know what's gonna happen. It was just amazing. I'm kind of like trying to wait a little bit because the fourth book doesn't come out until October, and I know it's supposed to be like a 6-book series, and I don't know how I'm gonna wait between them. So I gave Crown of Midnight definitely 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read in March, I don't actually have a physical copy with me because it was an ARC that a friend let me borrow. It jumped to the top of my TBR pile. Like, the moment that I got my hands on it, I just could not wait. And that is also by Sarah J. Maas, and it is called A Court of Thorns and Roses. I definitely, absolutely also gave that book a 5 out of 5 stars. If you can tell, I had like an amazing reading month in March. So just, oh my god, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and there's fairies, and there's like love scenes, and there's fighting scenes, and there's just like so much going on, riddles, and like, oh my god, it was just so great. And I just expect nothing less from Sarah J. Maas because she has like quickly become one of my absolute favorite YA authors. Like, she's just phenomenal. The next book that I read in March is The Winter's Crime. This is by Marie Rutkowski, and it's the second book in the Winter's trilogy. I also really enjoyed this book. The story picked up like right where it left off with Kestrel and Aaron, so I don't want to go too much into the plot because there will be spoilers because there's a first book, and you should read that one if you haven't read this one. So this, I would say this was actually a lot better than the first book, and I really liked the first book, so that's like saying something. I think I showed you in another video, but I went to the launch party and I got it signed by Marie, so that was really exciting. But yes, so Winter's Crime, 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is Sword Art Online, the first volume, and this is actually a light novel. I've never read light novels before, so this was my first one, and it was a really great introduction to it. What that means is it's like a Japanese type novel, and it's not manga, but it's not a full novel because there are some illustrations. I watched the anime for this, so it was the same thing. Like, there wasn't anything that was different. It was exactly that story, but I really liked that story, so it was enjoyable to read this, even though I knew like everything that was happening. And I'm definitely going to continue on with the series. And I also give Sword Art Online 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is We All Looked Up by Tommy Wallach. This was sent to me by Simon & Schuster for review. Oh, they also sent me this very cool rock, or asteroid, which I'm about to explain why. So it's about this group of kids, and they're teenagers in high school, and there's an asteroid called Ardor that is expected to hit the Earth in about 2 months. So it's about like just kind of trying to figure out what you want to do with like the final days of your life. And it was just really like hard to read because, you know, there's all these kids that have like worked so hard for everywhere that they've gotten so far, and everything that's going to happen in their futures is probably no longer going to happen. So they're coming to terms with that. It's just interesting. I thought that it was very, thought that it seemed very real, like the progression of society, like people started not caring as much, and then it kind of descended into some anarchy. So it seemed very real. And while this was a really good book, and it was definitely really thought-provoking, it made me kind of examine my own life and choices that I've made and where I am now, and if I would be happy with that if the world was ending. So I think that that is like a sign of good literature, that it really made me think. But I wasn't super into one of the characters. It took longer for me to read than I was expecting. So I like would emotionally give this 3 out of 5 stars, but writing wise, I would say it's 4 out of 5. It's just, you have to kind of be in the mood for something somber if you're gonna get into this. The next book that I read is In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang, and this is a graphic novel, and it was so good. It's about this girl that gets involved in an online MMORPG, and she goes on like missions and just meets other people, and it's about kind of how she like builds her confidence and just events that occur while she's there. It's a really quick read. I read it in one sitting, and it was just really, really well done. I would have loved for it to have been longer, but I liked what it was. So this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is an obvious 5 out of 5 stars. I reread the first book of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone if you're living in England. And like, obviously don't have to give a plot description of this because I think everybody knows the story of Harry Potter, but it was just so wonderful to like go back and experience those characters again and just, you know, just relive that whole world. And I feel like there are things that I'm seeing now that I didn't necessarily see as a child. This is actually probably the book that I've reread the least out of the series, but I'm going to continue this. My goal is to read all of Harry Potter, like, by the end of the year again, even though I've read some of them, like, a ridiculous amount of times. Like, Goblet of Fire, I have read 23 times because I really loved it that much as a kid. And yeah, so, my Harry Potter. And the last book that I have is The Orphan Queen by Jodi Meadows. I'm filming this 2 days before the month ends, and I am not completely finished with it, so I'm gonna just tell you how I feel so far. I'm pretty far into it. I'm over halfway, so I like it. It's about this girl who is the Orphan Queen. Her kingdom was destroyed and taken over, and nobody's allowed to use magic in this new kingdom, but she has some magical powers, and she has infiltrated the new like royalty, and she's trying to find out all this information so she can kind of just like reclaim her kingdom. And she teams up with this vigilante called the Black Knife, and she doesn't know who he is, so that's interesting. And I know that this book ends with like a major cliffhanger, so I just, I'm excited, but I need to finish this. As soon as I finish filming, I'm gonna read more of this. So I can't really give it a star rating yet, sorry. So that is my March wrap up. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I read a total of 9 books in March, which is, I would say, pretty good. Hopefully I'll get to read some more in April. And that's it for this video. I'll see you soon. Bye! So I can start going? Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do a rating of the other one. Okay. The next book that I read is falling down.